welcome to another episode of Living Well. And I'm still in Coffs Harbour at my mother's home and have caught up with quite a few wonderful friends. In fact, Anne-Marie's down to stay for a few days from the Sunshine Coast, or is it the Gold Coast?
Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to Anne-Marie about bringing up children because living well, I mean, we really want it to be practical, and so many people are really trying to work out how to communicate, how to make the most of the relationship with their children. So for you, what's been your experience?
Yeah.
Start wherever you like.
Okay, well, I became a mum quite young. I was 24, almost 25. My journey was quite a steep slide very quickly into motherhood. I met their dad, two boys, very young. Very soon after we were having our first child. So yeah, so when Taylor was born, I fortunately had been an older sister with 3 other siblings, so I knew what to do, helping my mum from about the age of 10, and helping my younger brothers and sisters was certainly helpful in raising my own children. So yeah.
When do you think the soul actually enters the womb? When did you really feel that first connection?
That's a great question. There's a time, I think they call it the quickening. It's around the about 4 to 5 months, and you really. Well, I really could tell the baby starts, you could feel little butterfly kicks, and that's when I could really feel that there's another little soul with me now. And it was quite lovely, actually. Yeah. So.
And the birth, that's, I mean, for most women, they say how amazing it is, but of course it's hard to put it into words. How would you describe that experience of becoming a mother?
Well, it's quite intense and mind-blowing, I suppose. But you have those 9 months to start to really think about it and prepare yourself, and of course talk to other mums, and so it wasn't too difficult, I suppose you could say. Yeah.
And what was your first experience with your firstborn?
Well, I decided to have both of my children at home, which was something in the 90s, which wasn't very common in Australia, and it's quite frowned upon even now. But I wanted to do that because I really didn't want to have intervention in hospitals, and I had a midwife. It was very organic and natural, and for me, I felt like I had control over my own choices, So I found that very helpful. So.
And the first connection?
First connection, yes. To when Taylor arrived, I was holding him in my arms. He wasn't a crying baby. He just looked at me, very his little dark eyes looked at me, and I looked at him, and he was like, he went, oh. That was pretty intense.
So that was your first communication.
Yeah, and so it was kind of like, you've just been born, welcome. Yeah.
And mothers often struggle with what we could call attachment. I don't know, that's a pretty loaded word, but to me, I guess it's meaning suffering, when your children suffer, and worrying and all the kind of things that come with not having separate identities, I guess, because you often feel that you and the child are one.
Yes, very much so, because when the child first arrives, like they're completely helpless and entirely dependent upon you. And I've kind of likened the journey of parenthood as a slow separation, so like you're almost completely and attached to one another, and then slowly, as the child learns to sit, learns to crawl, walk, then just slowly they're starting their journey of, which is for
Of
each
separating,
of us.
separating in a way.
And it's their own unique journey, isn't it? Yeah.
And was it a spiritual experience, would you say, giving birth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had been introduced to Raj Yoga about approximately 12 months prior to that.
Okay.
So I had real knowledge of, that this is a soul. We both have karma with one another. I'm playing the role of this soul's parent. But when he arrived, I was just, thank you so much to God for allowing a safe delivery, Yeah, so that was really, and of course, because it's a painful thing.
Yeah.
Giving birth, but I consider myself pretty fortunate.
Yeah.
So.
And what's been, would you say, your biggest challenge in terms of that attachment, the sorrow of attachment? And what did you learn from it?
I think my greatest challenge, or my greatest learning journey, was when my eldest was 14. I was a single parent from the age of, he was about 6 or 7, and he was a very old soul, he was like a little adult. So when we were very close, we had a lovely connection. That he had decided he didn't want to live. We were living on the Gold Coast, and it really wasn't his. He was more a country boy, and so he decided to go and live with his dad. So I didn't see him. There was a lot of emotional upheaval, I suppose you could say, not between me and him, but just the whole scenario. So I didn't see him for almost 7 months, I think. That was the most difficult time, because I could really see how much attachment I had. And I sort of liken, as you said, it's a loaded word, but there's healthy attachment, and then there's unhealthy attachment, and the unhealthy attachment really comes, you feel that in the form of pain and suffering. So, yeah.
And you said that was your greatest learning.
It was.
So what did you learn from that?
I learnt detachment, which wasn't easy.
You think you're detached until something like that happens, and then
because there's it's kind of like there's dual emotions. I had genuine concern for the soul's well-being, and as well as because we didn't see one another for that time, there was this real sense of loss, and so whenever I hear of a parent whose child has passed away, I really feel for them, because that short amount of time, I had to continuously tell myself, he hasn't died, he's still alive. But yeah,
so is it a lot to do with separation? Because as you said, when they start walking, when they start going to school, there's different kind of progressive states of separation. So
I think that's a good way to describe it. But also, I think it's letting go of your expectations, of what I think is best for this,
right?
And really embracing the acceptance that each soul has their own journey.
Did you question his love for you when he made that decision?
No, it was very difficult for him as well. Yeah. But, you know, just I really understood the choice that he made, but, you know, just genuinely concerned because it's out of my hands then, you know, and he'd only just turned 14.
He was very young to know what he wanted.
Yeah, well, I think he was experiencing bullying on the Gold Coast, so he loved, like, he's an engineer now, like a metal engineer, so he loved being out in the shed and working on cars and things like that, which, you know, I didn't have the space and the environment for him.
Right.
So yeah, there was also, you know, the need for him to.
How much has the practice of Raj Yoga informed your way of bringing up the children, and do you think it's been good for you and good for them?
Absolutely, yes. It's like framed my whole journey of parenthood, and yeah, just I think I've always our conversations are. I think I know just through my interactions with other parents, you know, my perception is different because I'm in a space of really seeing that this is another soul and another being who's been on a journey prior to the connection and this role that we're both playing now.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't, and I always it's quite an interesting concept. You know, when you first become a parent, it's like you've known this being your whole life, but you know, 2 years prior to that, you didn't know them at all. It's an incredible thing, really. So I always would try and put that in perspective. That soul was on a journey somewhere else, playing another role at that time, and now our karmic accounts have brought us together, and we're you know, interacting and playing this role.
It's interesting that you're speaking singularly often, and you're talking a lot about your eldest son. What about your other child?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's had, of course, been a part of our journey too. My boys are 4.5 years apart, and I'm very close with my youngest son as well. He's really very, very spiritual and loves coming when he can. Since he was little, he'd come and help.
I met him at the Lura Retreat Centre. He was there as a volunteer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and he loves it. He really enjoys mixing with people who, you know, can speak. You know, their conversations are about, you know, interesting things that get him to think. Yeah.
And how has Raj Yoga helped them? It's been helpful to you, as what I'm hearing, but how do you think it's really helped them by your being spiritual?
I think my eldest son is a parent.
So you're a grandma
himself.
Already.
Yes.
Hardly 50, I think.
Yeah. So I can see a lot of my parenting style coming through in my eldest parenting style, which I think will benefit them as well. So, you know, like talking about attachment, and then the balancing component of that is being detached but as equally loving. You know, so you can be loving, but you know, but allowing.
Yeah, because I think, Anne-Marie, as I said to you, my main feeling from you is love, and yet I was very interested to talk to you about that love and detachment, because I can see that you've got that clarity, and quite healthy boundaries, I would say, in
Yes.
relationships, not just with your children, but as I see you interacting, you know, as a volunteer in our retreat centres,
Thank
you've
you.
got quite healthy boundaries.
Well, you know, when my husband and I first separated and I had just moved into our new home, I was in the kitchen and I was full of, you know, all mixed up emotions, and, you know, because I do recall quite a lot of anxiety around, well, this responsibility of, you know, I'm really now responsible for raising these two children. And I remember looking just so clearly, looking at the cups that were on a rack in the corner of the kitchen. And this voice said to me, you need to remain very stable. Just focus on being stable. So that was a very, very strong theme of parenting.
I see. So what do you understand by that, stable?
So
What did it mean for you?
There was most certainly the you know, balance, you know, being, you know, loving, you know, caring, but also, you know, lawful, that they term is lawful, or, you know, like really, because if you have too much of either, you find there's less harmony in your home. Like if you're too loving and just then well, especially sons, but I'm sure many mothers of daughters would say, you know, they soon work out what they can get away with. So there's, you know, and that it was a wonderful experiment for me, actually.
So actually what I'm hearing is that you recognize the need for your children to have boundaries.
Absolutely.
So that's where you learnt boundaries from really trying to give them healthy boundaries, both for yourself and for them, for your stability.
Yes, and I think a lot of that is not only in, you know, you have to be home at 5 o'clock, or you know, you can't stay over at your friend's place for, you know, 10 days or whatever that is, but it's also in the way you're interacting with me. You know, the way that you know, you're speaking with me, or, you know, you're behaving around me. So I discovered one of the most powerful ways to let the boys know that wasn't okay was to just look, and I was given the point to always look them in the eye, you know, because kids, especially today with social media, you know, they're
so
the
distracted.
Screens, unless your child is looking you in the eye and engaged, you may as well be speaking another language. And so in the context of you know, letting them know what needs to change, I would be saying, you know, that's not okay, that behaviour is not okay, you know. So
do you feel that it's led to quite a good respect for each other?
Absolutely.
Because often
adults
there's
now,
not respect for relationships, whether it's from the parent to the children, because they see the children as just children, or from the children to the parent, because there's rebellion and all those things happening.
Yes, and I think parents can experience a huge amount of fear that, oh, now this child, you know, doesn't respect me, or is not doing what I say, or, you know. But I remember, especially in the teenage rebellious years, kids, they, you know, especially my youngest, oh my goodness, the stories. But
I thought he was least trouble because you didn't mention him much. I thought, maybe he wasn't much trouble.
I was grateful for the experience from the older one, but he was. But I remember, you know, they'd be like, you know, oh yeah, whatever, or, you know, their attitude towards you, and I'd be just adopted this. Oh, this is their job. this is a teenager's job.
What's their
to
job?
To be, you know, nasty, or to not listen, or, you know, that's, oh, okay.
Because you probably did the same to your parents, did you?
I would like to say no. Yeah.
So there was an acceptance of
Yeah,
of what
and
a young
also
person-
understanding that, you know, nothing ever, you know, no situation ever remains the same. Like, this is not going to be the situation forever. He's not always going to be 13 and throwing things at school buses or whatever it was doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So any advice to a new parent? What would you feel is the most helpful attitudes and consciousness outlook for them to have?
I think, like, in terms of what not to do is not try to fulfill all your unfulfilled dreams and hopes through your child. And to most certainly accept that they have their own journey, which, you know, as the personality starts to, you know, flower, you know, in the age of 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, they're really, you can really get a good snapshot of, you know, what this being is, you know, where they're heading. Well, that was my experience anyway. So yes. So
Yeah. Any books were helpful to you, or any particular teachings?
Probably more just being around like-minded parents. But yeah, or I think sometimes it's frowned upon to consider your children your friend, but I always like to think of them as my friend. And I think, you know, we don't remain friends with people who treat us badly.
Yeah.
You know, but then also we need to understand that their children, and if they're teenagers, or even like 10, 11, 12, that's their job.
Yeah. And you were a working mother?
Part-time. I as part of my balance theory, my number one most important goal was to raise these children, you know, and I found it. To new parents, it goes very, very quickly and very, very slowly. Yeah.
So overall, you're pretty happy
Oh, absolutely.
with the job you've done?
Yeah.
That's a great feeling to have.
It
isn't
is. It is a wonderful feeling, and now they're out in the world living their lives as they wish. Just supporting them, you know, in their choices, whatever they may be.
So you've been meditating for, you know, 20, 25 years. Would you be able to just guide us in some kind of a reflection?
Sure.
What has worked for you? What kind of a reflection have you done that really helps you regain that stability? I guess that was,
I think.
So let's do it. Let's
Okay.
do a little meditation.
Sure.
Just be mindful to speak a bit loudly. Often we
Okay.
become very quiet in our meditation.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting back into the time, especially when I would sit on my veranda. I had a beautiful view, and that was a time because that I could really take the power and to be able to continue on.
There.
So as I'm sitting here and relaxing and stepping away from all of the duties and thoughts and thinking about what's next to do, I'm really taking comfort in knowing that I'm doing a wonderful job. And I'm not placing too much pressure upon myself. Letting go of any expectations and any outcome. Moving into a place of really accepting that however these next days, weeks, months and years turn out, it's absolutely perfect.
It was really lovely to hear your confidence there. You know, I like it when you said, knowing that I've done a good job. That's really something to be able to. I mean, of course, no one's perfect. I'm sure you've made mistakes, but you know, we all do our best, and given the circumstances, it sounds like you're pretty happy with how it's all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're able to let go and try not to think about any of those mistakes.
Yeah.
But you know, because if we've learnt and you know, adjusted.
Yeah, and you also said not having too much expectation of yourself, because parents struggle with that.
Yeah.
Of trying to do it perfectly, and there's no perfect way, I think, to be a parent. So
it's incredibly essential to have mercy upon yourself.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Anne-Marie.
Thank
you for agreeing to this interview, and I believe you're on your way now back up to the Gold Coast.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, and we're going to have our other friend who's been staying with me here very soon. So thank you.
Best wishes, everyone.